I don't know who needs to hear this, but hey, come.
One night in 1999, three children were walking home through Ketekrachi when they saw what looked like a child standing in the middle of the path. The closer they got, the taller it became. The account you're about to hear was shared with us by a viewer from Ghana. Like many personal experiences involving the unexplained, it cannot be independently verified, and we are presenting it exactly as it was described to us. Back then, Lydia was the youngest of three siblings, and for the most part, life was quiet. She lived with a mother in Ketekrachi, a quiet town on the shores of Lake Volta in Ghana's Oti region, while the rest of their family was back home in Hohoi in Ghana's Volta region too. Like many communities at the time, their house did not yet have electricity. One day, Lydia's mother traveled back to Hohoi for a short visit, leaving the three children at home on their own. When night came, they did what they often did whenever they wanted to watch television. They walked to a neighbor's house. It wasn't next door either. The walk took about 10 minutes, but in those days, that wasn't unusual, especially if somebody nearby owned a television and your own house did not have one. That night, they stayed longer than they normally would. One program became another. Conversation stretched on, and before any of them really noticed, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. By then, it was time to head home. So the three of them thanked their neighbors, stepped back onto the narrow path, and started making the familiar walk through the night. At first, nothing felt unusual. The moon was out. The path ahead was visible enough to follow. And because they had walked the same route so many times before, there was very little to think about. Then, up ahead, they noticed someone standing in the distance. At least, that's what it looked like. From where they were, it seemed like a child standing quietly on the path. Nobody thought much of it. They simply kept walking. But the closer they got, the stranger it became. The figure did not seem to stay the same height. Instead, it appeared to be getting taller. With every step they took, it seemed to rise higher and higher, until Lydia suddenly remembered the story she had heard growing up. Among the Ewe people, there are old stories about a supernatural being some called Eza. I'm not really sure of the pronunciation, but for the sake of this story, we will call it Eza, a name many associate with a terrifying forest spirit, known in other traditions as the Sasabonsam. As the figure continued growing in front of them, that was the only thing Lydia could think of. That's when she shouted, "It's Eza!" And the moment those words left her mouth, she turned and ran. Her older siblings did not wait to find out what was standing ahead of them. The moment they heard Lydia scream, they spun around and ran too. But only after a few steps, something happened.